Hello there, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to Lunch for the Soul. I'm Melissa Wilson with Fox 26 News morning anchor as well as medical reporter. And as a medical reporter for Fox, I get to meet some of the most interesting people, and so many of them I feel like we can learn a lot from. At some point in our lives, we're either going to suffer from sickness ourselves or we're going to have a loved one who goes through it. But when we can meet people and figure out how they're living life to the fullest, of how they're beating the odds, I feel like it can make a huge difference in all of our lives. So right now, I want to introduce you to the beautiful Michelle. Hello. Thank you for joining me.
Good morning.
Well,
It's wonderful to be here.
You have a dramatic story to share because you were only given 6 months to live. What about 7 years ago? And here you are refusing that fate, doing everything you can to stay your healthiest. And you just have such a beautiful story to share. So let's just start from the beginning. Michelle, tell us what was going on and what you were diagnosed with.
So in 2017, I had a lot of pain, and I couldn't figure out what it was from. I was having trouble at the gym. I took a lot of spinning classes, and when I would take spinning classes and I would lean over in that cycle position, it would put a lot of pressure on my stomach. So I just knew something was wrong. And a couple of friends talked to me and they said, oh, I have Crohn's. It really sounds like Crohn's. So maybe that's what it is. At that point, I knew I had to do something. So I took myself down to the medical center in search of any ER that would take me. So I ended up in the ER. In the ER, they told me I had kidney stones, which I already knew. I've been dealing with kidney stones my whole life. I kept saying, no, it's not kidney stones. But one of the great things about our medical center is they have a doctor for everything. So even though they didn't get exactly what I needed at that point, I got a great doctor out of it.
That's huge. But you were back at school when you found out the diagnosis. What was that moment like of trying to pull it together, and what did they tell you?
Yeah, so the first week of school, I ended up having to have a colonoscopy, and they took a biopsy. I had some polyps. They removed some stuff. I knew things didn't look so well after the colonoscopy, but I didn't have an exact answer. So I got a phone call at work. They called me out of the classroom. I was like, well, this is really odd. This isn't typical for a teacher to be called out of the classroom like this for a phone call. And the doctor said, I need to let you know that you have cancer and it's probably has spread. At that point, I was like, okay, let me have a few minutes to myself before I go back into the classroom. I had to compose myself. But even at that point, I really felt like, okay, I'm young, I'm healthy, I eat right, I work out. This is just going to be the little cancer that they can cut out and I'm going to be okay. And so it still hadn't even sunk in yet.
But then you found out that, the doctors were giving you a very slim chance of surviving this because it was considered to be late stage. When you hear that, and when you're told, when anybody puts a number on our life, that's tough. They go by statistics, but you and I believe that God, that's his decision, right? Like you can't say this is how long you have to live. How did you start to put up that fight and say, this is not going to happen to me? I'm going to fight this and live as long as I can.
Yeah, so I did. I had the first set of doctors did not give me much hope. And I was like, well, I won't be back here. I'm going to go seek another opinion because I'm not going to take that. And I literally, that was the first time I lost it. I don't break down and cry about it very often, but at that point I did. And I said, God, I understand the hand that you've dealt me and you wouldn't give me more than I can handle. So I need you to show up for me. I need you to show up in any small way, whether it be in a kind face, whether it be in someone's necklace. Somehow I needed God to show up for me every day. And when I found my new hospital, I said, you're going to be here every day. And with no fault, he was there every single day, whether it be through a person. Like I said, I saw some bracelets when I would get real nervous to go into appointments, and I would look down at the nurse's bracelet and it would have a cross on it. I'm like, okay, That's you. That's you telling me to take a deep breath and that it's going to be okay. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I think that positive affirmations like that are so very important. I also have them all over my home. I have them in my office, and I just love the cross, the faith, the be still. And how important is that to you to have that in your life?
So I did ask one of the nurses, I said, what's the biggest difference you see in the prognosis of patients here? And they said, really, we can't determine it, but it's all about attitude and how they come in here. They said the people that come in here defeated already, the people that do not come in here with, that do not have faith when they come in these doors,
Mhm.
they just don't make it as well as someone who comes in with the attitude that they're going to beat this and that they have God on their side. You know, he has the final say. And I believe my doctors have saved my life, but I believe that my God has given those doctors some blessed hands and some blessings and some gifts that they are allowed to use.
Oh, anytime you beat statistics like that, you have to, that faith certainly tells that story. Let's talk about your treatment. So you started chemotherapy very quickly.
Yeah, so when they saw me, they said your disease is so advanced that you've had to have had it in your body for 10 years. They said we don't even have time to wait for a port to be put in. Typically, a port's put in. They said we don't have time for that. Like that's a surgery alone. They said so you're getting what they call a PICC line. So it's just an IV line that goes through your arm to somewhere around your heart and it administers chemotherapy like that. And so they did it like that so that I could get in the chair within a week.
My
So
goodness.
it was very scary.
Yeah, they were ready to go and get you going. And then what about your surgery?
My first surgery was after 6 months of chemotherapy. Then they give you a month break because all the toxins have to, rid your system. And then my surgery, like I didn't even ask many questions at all. Like I had faith in my surgeons, I had faith in God. I didn't even ask how it was being cut open. Like I had no idea. I just went in there with blind faith. And I'm glad I did because the fear wasn't in me. But it was a 12-hour surgery. And they came out and they spoke with my friends and family. And they told my friends and family that, first of all, it was a successful surgery. They were able to get all of the cancer out. But they also told my family that they did not think I was going to be able to be saved. They really thought they were going to cut me open and find so much cancer that they would not be able to help me. But in fact, just the opposite. And even the doctor said it's really a miracle what we have witnessed today. Like we did not expect to get all this cancer.
That had to be such an amazing thing to wake up from surgery and to find out. And I love here you as the queen dealing with this battle. And it looks like you kept a sense of humor throughout it. I mean, it sounds like you had a good support system that really helped as well.
Yeah, I have great friends here. My family would come in. My family's from Chicago. So my mom would come in quite frequently to alternate chemo treatments between her and then my best friend who lives just outside of San Antonio. So they would take turns coming in. That's my mom and dad before my first surgery. The Team Cappel shirts are from the school that I taught at. A friend had them all made for the staff and me and my family.
How nice to have that. And just to feel like you had all these people cheering you on had to feel so good. Well, I know it felt good at that point to have gotten through, but we fast forward a year and here you go again. So you found out it had come back. What happened and what did they tell you?
So when it came back, I initially read the the scan reports and I was like, well, it's small. I think it was 1.9 centimeters, so, or Yeah. And I'm like, well, that's still little. So I messaged my doctor and I said, since it's so small this time, can't we go about this laparoscopically? And he was like, absolutely not. You need to come in immediately. We need to have a conversation. So I went to my surgeon's office and he's like, so once again, I think you're misunderstanding. You're seeing that it's little, but what you don't realize is it being wrapped around your femoral nerve. He's like, you may never walk again. He said, this is a very small tumor. He said, but location is everything. And this location is one of the worst locations it possibly could be. And he said, this surgery might even be worse than your first surgery. I was like, well, how could that be? My first surgery, I had cancer everywhere and it was 12 hours. How in the world could this little one? He said, we have to have someone able to resect the nerve. We have to save as much as of your muscle and your leg as we possibly can. So at that point, I had to move because I didn't know if I'd end up in a wheelchair or walker. I mean, they prepped me for anything, but I was like, well, I'll take this, take it one day at a time, and we'll see what God does with this. But so far, He has seen me through every single step of the way, and I'm just going to believe that He's going to continue to see me through this.
Oh, it's such a brave heart that you have, and you're so strong to be able to do that. And then 5 years passed, things were going really well at that time.
Yeah, I mean, things were going well. Schools, I've kept working. A lot of patients can't keep working, but I've, kept up my strength. I've kept working. I think that alone helps me a lot mentally, that I have something else to look forward to in my life other than just talking about cancer all the time. I mean, I of course don't mind talking about it, and I love sharing my story as long as it can help other people.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's so hard sometimes to talk about it, but at the same time, I feel like it's almost therapeutic, right? To be able to talk about it and be open, and then hopefully raise awareness about how important it is to be screened. Recently, another diagnosis?
Yes. So I thought I was good, and I had kind of complained about some pain in my pelvis area, and the doctors had pushed on it. They looked at the scans. They said no. They said it's probably scar tissue. Scar tissue can cause some pain. I was like, okay. So I let it pass, and then 2 scans later, it actually grew. So the spot that I was pointing to, it was something, and so they knew exactly where it was located. And at first, they thought it was what they call a perimets. And that means a perimets means it's in your abdominal wall. If that were the case, that would have been a much more extensive surgery for me. It more than likely would have taken me out of work the entire year, because the treatment for a perimet is very toxic. So it knocks people out. I've met with doctors about it, and they're like, it'll knock you out for a year. So don't think about going back into the classroom. And of course, me being a single teacher, I think of, okay, my insurance, my bills, like who's going to take care of all of this stuff? So then they went in and they did some more imaging, and they came back and they're like, okay, it's not a perimet. I'm like, okay, it's still cancer, but it's a little bit better. So it's sitting above my abdominal wall. So they are able to get in there and cut it out. And so I met with my oncologist first, and my oncologist was like, well, we could do some chemo. We could revisit some old chemo. We could do chemo or no chemo. And he kind of left it up to me. Then I went to the surgeon, explained the story to the surgeon, and I said, well, he wants to know if you want chemo. And he's like, no. I'm the surgeon. I'm the guy who cuts it out. I'm not the guy who tells you if you need chemo or not. And I said, okay. I said, well, then it's on me. So I had a lot to think about, because, these chemos are very toxic on you.
Yeah.
And with this tumor being so small, I had to think about my long-term survivorship. And knowing that I have advanced colorectal cancer, I do know it's going to come back. So I felt like if I used another line of chemotherapy, that I'm giving up a little bit that I might need for the future. So I emailed my doctors and I said, well, this is, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
This is what I think. And they said, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
They said, no, I'm going to grab some water. So let me,
Okay, you do that. We'll let you do that. And then I also want to make sure that we talk about how much you're just raising awareness, but finish that thought real quick.
yeah. So the doctors were like, no, we agree with you 100%. The decision you made is the exact one we would have made as well. I was like, why didn't you say that in the first place?
Well, they had to hear it from you, it sounds like.
Stressing on
Right.
this.
Well, I was mentioned earlier, you have a good sense of humor. You've been doing all kinds of awareness and trying to make a difference, paving the future for others. Here you are at a fun walk. Here you are at another one as a survivor of this awful disease. It looks like you have a full crowd there, like just helping cheer you on. And I want to talk about something that you have been instrumental in, and that's with the American Cancer Society of raising awareness. They have a huge event coming up this weekend that I want to make sure everybody knows about. But how did you get involved with them, first of all?
I actually got involved with American Cancer Society through another colon cancer patient. She actually works for them now. So she connected me with them because they needed metastatic patients. And unfortunately, there's not as many metastatic patients to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, no, we need some stage 4 people that can talk to us and to share their stories.
And for anyone who doesn't know what metastatic is, it's just the process of advanced disease where the cancer has spread to other organs. The Cattle Barons Ball is coming up this weekend. It's going to be an exciting time for the American Cancer Society to raise money, to raise funds, to make a difference in cancer patients' lives. Midland and Pat Green performing. It's going to be an incredible event, isn't it?
Yeah, I am very excited for them. They've been making such advancements for colorectal cancer patients in general. They've been working really hard to get insurance companies to cover biomarker testing, which is extremely important for patients. And so I've been helping them with that because I do have a personal connection to that. As well as myself, as well as a friend who actually didn't get the testing done. So I do see the difference of people who do get the testing done versus those who do not.
In
So
fact, you lost a friend, right, who didn't do it. Let's talk about what that is. I have a sheet that I want to just pull up here that the American Cancer Society provided us in the Cancer Action Network. This is talking about how important it is. And you really do feel like this saved your life because it gave doctors exactly an idea of how to treat you?
yeah, so when they're able to pull your biomarkers, they know exactly what chemotherapy will work the best for you. And this is not just cancer patients. This also is for other critical diseases as well. So, but yeah, they were able to, zero in on what chemo would be best for me. And like I said earlier, my friend, she didn't have the testing done. She wasn't at a National Cancer Institute. And so they did not push for biomarker testing. And she had 6 months of chemotherapy that was never going to work for her. And so I helped her get to my doctors that I thought would, give her better treatment of care. And she found out that 6 months was kind of wasted time, and that chemotherapy. I'm sorry, my dog is crying in the
Oh,
background.
your dog wants some mama love. It's all good. We know most of us have been there. We get it. No apology necessary.
Yeah, but so my friend did. She once she got to my doctor's, she said no more chemo. She said I just did 6 months of chemo that I, was useless. So she said no more chemo. She tried every holistic thing out there. And unfortunately, she didn't make it. And
You do feel that biomarker would have made a big difference. A simple blood test could have saved her life.
I just feel like it would have set her up differently. And she had a very, very strong faith as well. And I feel like had she been sent down the right path in the beginning, she wouldn't have just given up. She has had a young son to live for. And, now he's got, 6 years old and has no mom.
Well, as of September 1st, insurance companies in Texas have to pay for it. So that's huge. It's a massive advancement that I feel like as a medical reporter could absolutely set people up, as you said, on the right path to hopefully change the trajectory of their entire life. So, Michelle, thank you for being such a bright light, for sharing your story, for making a difference in other people. It's just such an honor to be able to talk to you. And we're going to put you at the top of our prayer list. And I just hope that this next chapter that you're going through, the next treatment phase, goes so smoothly and you just come out so brilliantly on the other side as you have every single time.
Yes, that is it. God will pull me through again.
You take care of yourself and keep in touch with us.
Okay. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
All right. Take care.
All right.
And just a reminder for you all, every Wednesdays, 12:30, the place to be. If you happen to join us late today, you can always go to Fox 26's YouTube page. Just look us up under Lunch for the Soul. And Wednesday's always a place to be. If you want to be a part of Lunch for the Soul, I wish you would reach out to me. It's so easy to do. Probably the best way to reach me is just by emailing me at fox26houston.com or melissa.wilson@fox.com. I hope to see you soon. Next time, 12:30. We'll see you here on Lunch for the Soul. Have a beautiful day, everybody. And again, please keep our beautiful Michelle in your thoughts and prayers. Bye-bye.